It's literally been 5 years since I did a Q&A on this channel. Exciting series called Coffee Q&A. And this is where I sit down with a cup of coffee and answer your questions that you've been sending in. That's mad. The time has gone so quickly. So we got a question from Worm Studio. And I wanted to bring this back because it's actually the piece of advice that I give to so many people who are starting YouTube channels. They say, Thomas, if you were to start a new YouTube channel again, what would you do? And one of the main things I would say is create community, interact with your audience, ask them questions, answer their questions. But right now I kind of feel like I'm starting a new YouTube channel again. It's kind of this new phase where I'm making videos more consistently. For a bit of nostalgia, I was watching the old Q&As I used to do, and it's crazy, you know? I've been doing this for a long time now, and I just feel really grateful to still be here doing this in a lot of ways. It's kind of like, it's weird, you know? I looked at myself in the mirror after watching this video and I'm like, damn, I got like long hair now, I look older, so much in my life has changed, so much is still the same, you know? It's just this moment, you know, when it's like, fuck, that was 5 years ago, that's crazy. Anyway, I used to drink coffee in those videos. They were called coffee Q&As, but this time I've got some tea. These are some actual tea leaves. They're pretty fancy. So I'm gonna be drinking a cup of lemon and ginger infusion. So I'm gonna make that and let's crack into it. So here we go. Well, let me show you guys the studio quickly. I mean, it looks pretty clean on that shot, but it's really not. It's a little bit of a mess. Let us make a little brew. I mean, this is not the optimal way I'd be doing this at all. If I haven't got anything in the studio at the moment. I haven't even got a kettle, unfortunately. So I'm gonna be making microwaved tea, which is, I actually feel quite disgusted at myself for doing this. Because if you don't know by now, I'm a bit of a tea snob and a coffee snob. And just a snob. Nah, not really. Don't know how the new GoPro is coping with this light right now. It's very low light in this studio. I haven't got any optimal lighting set up on this that I'm shooting right now. Everything's pointed at my face when I'm sitting down, so kind of interested to see how the new GoPro Hero 9 is handling very poor lighting conditions. Let's see. I'm gonna whack this in the microwave. A couple of minutes. All right, whilst we're waiting for that, let's put a bit of music on. What have we got here? Who's this? Tom Norman. Not bad.
Away, another wax sound wave. Snort the
heart. Nice and hot. Now for the magic part. Look at that. Oh yeah. A healthy dose of antioxidants in there probably. High dosage. Lid on. All right, whilst waiting for that to brew, let's get into the first question. All right, when I emailed this out to you guys saying, ask me anything, I got more than 50 responses, so I'm not gonna be going over all of these. So if I do not answer your question, please don't be offended. I've just chosen the ones that I think is gonna give the most value to you guys, to the most people, basically. So some of these I'm gonna kind of fire through, some of these I'm gonna take a bit longer on. The first one is from Mike, and he says, hi Thomas, I love your videos. I've watched lots of YouTube videos, but I'm still confused about what FPS I should shoot at. That's frames per second. I'm only starting out, so I'm using the iPhone 11. Lots of experts recommend 24 and others say 60. So yeah, this is a really quick and easy one, Mike. RIC around 24 frames per second. We don't actually see it in frames, but the equivalent is around 24 frames per second. So this is why it looks cinematic, because it looks realistic. So if you want to shoot some realistic looking footage, it's going to be played back in real time. 24 or 25 frames per second, doesn't really matter, is the way to go. You only want to shoot in 60 frames per second when you want to slow your footage down to half. So you'd shoot in 60 frames per second when more or less you know that that shot is going to be slowed down to more than half. That's going to allow you to play back your footage in half speed with smooth slow motion. If you try slowing down 24 frames per second to half speed, it's going to jutter. And so if you do that with 60, you're going to get buttery smooth slow motion. Shoot in 60 if you want to have the option for half speed slow-mo, and 24 if you know you're just going to keep it at real-time speed and you want cinematic looking results. All right, next one is from Mark. He says, Thomas, just wondering, you seem to be fairly well traveled. Do you have a particular city you most enjoyed filming in? Also, do you have any international shoots planned when the threat of COVID lessens? Barcelona is where I live now, and I really enjoy still shooting this city. It has an amazing light, especially throughout winter when the hours are slightly shorter. The sun always seems quite kind of low in the sky, so it's almost like this kind of constant golden hour here, especially in the winter months, so it's beautiful to shoot anything in Barcelona. It's actually making me think now that I don't generally shoot in cities. I don't usually go for this kind of like urban B-roll style. I really like shooting in landscapes and nature. So it's quite hard for me to answer that in a specific city that I've enjoyed shooting in. I really enjoyed making this Finding Peace in London video. That was an amazing day, and I shot that with my brothers. And just going around London and exploring all of these different parts of London was amazing as well. All right, let's see how this tea is doing. Cheers. Not ready yet, needs more time to brew. All right, next question is from Steve, and I recognize this email because he is a member of the Life Capture Academy. When you look at people already creating and publishing videos on their own channel, in your opinion overall, what is the biggest thing that needs improvement? I've had a guess at what your reply might be. Okay, I think the first thing I would say would be get your composition right. Actually, I think that would definitely be the biggest mistake that I see, is people's shots are bad in the first place. Now, there's only so much you can do to polish up bad looking shots, and you can take them a long way with editing. You can make a pretty cool video with bad footage, but if in the first place they are just very poorly composed, then it's really hard to take any kind of video to the next level. And this is what I see a lot, is people want to skip ahead. They want to know the cool transitions and they want to know the cool color grading, but they don't really focus on the actual composition of the shot. Because it takes a little while to know, kind of going through some photography books or just reading up about the composition rules or taking part in a program such as the Life Capture Academy. It takes a little while or a little bit of effort to know the composition rules and to know which ones you should use when. And if you don't really go through this process, you're always going to be limited in terms of how good your videos look. So that's probably the area where I see the biggest room for improvement for most beginner filmmakers. Steve also says, looking forward to the Q&As. Glad to see the YouTube channel is getting more love and appreciate the behind the scenes editing videos in the LCA. Thank you, Steve. All right, next up we have Jay. He's saying, thanks for bringing this segment back. Yeah, we're here. I'm a long-time follower and have learned plenty from you. I'm new to videography, I have some beginner gear. I struggle with knowing what to film in order to practice technique, focusing on storytelling. I'm also a late videographer bloomer, I'm 52. Thank you for your help and time. Okay, so I'm not 100% clear on your question here. I'm going to assume that you're talking about you don't necessarily know how to improve because you're talking about practicing techniques rather than I don't know how to make this final film. It's kind of like, I'm struggling with how to practice. I'm struggling with how to learn. So I'm gonna interpret your question like that. Give yourself some structure. Set yourself some kind of drills. So for example, what you could do is say, right, one day I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna focus on one thing. And for example, what I said before, that might be composition. So you're gonna go out, you're gonna get some composition knowledge, you're gonna watch some tutorials or you're gonna join a program, whatever you're gonna do, and then you're gonna go out and practice that specific skill without worrying too much about if everything's in focus or if you're focusing on the storytelling. No, just practice that one thing. Edit that, review your shots, maybe then you'll see, okay, this is not as good as I wanted, this is better than I thought, or whatever. Improve from there. Then, for example, the next week you would focus on something else. You would focus maybe on telling a good story and maybe integrating a little bit of composition within that. So you kind of create a structure for yourself when you're building and growing on each thing that you've learned before. I can't help but mention, as a side note, this is literally what the Life Capture Academy program is. It's a 6-week program where I give you a drill each week that you go and improve on every week after that. So you kind of start from the foundations and you kind of build on top of each skill that you learn. And this is what I would recommend for you. I would recommend that you go out and set yourself these kind of challenges, because otherwise you're just gonna get super overwhelmed with everything. You're gonna watch a million tutorials, try and do everything at once, get disappointed, and then give up. So take one step at a time. All right, let's try the tea now. Wow, delicious. Okay, next is from Igor. Thomas, how you doing? I'm Igor from Brazil. I have one question for you. On vacation trips or on weekends with friends, I have big difficulty enjoying the moment and making a video at the same and making a video at the same time. In the end, I always end up with disconnected shots that don't make sense. Do you have any tips? Yes, I do. What you have to do is decide on your priority. Are you going out to make a really cool video, and that's the priority? You're traveling to make a video. You're not traveling to travel, you're traveling to make a video. That's number one option. Number two is you're traveling and you want to make a little video to capture that on the side. These are two very different things. I've been on trips where I've gone there to make a video. I haven't gone to travel and relax. I've gone there to make a film. And this is awesome. This is amazing. Like you get your enjoyment out of the creative process rather than relaxing and enjoying the travel itself. If you're traveling, you go to travel, you get your enjoyment out of the travel and the experience and maybe the relax or the adventure or whatever. And on the side, you're creating a video, but that's not your priority. You kind of create it on the side, and it doesn't matter if it's that good, but you're trying to kind of capture the moment. So these are two very different things, and my recommendation would be that you get clear on this priority before anything else. If you want more info about that, check out the free training down below where I go over this kind of decision in depth and what you should do, and also give you recommendations on the gear that you should use based on the decision or the intention that you have before your trip. All right, next up we have Joanie. I also recognize Joanie. She was part of the Talking on Camera challenge. So what's up, Joanie? Good to see you here. I have a question. I know it's very general, but here it goes. How do you mix talking on camera and B-roll? Do you have a framework? How do you keep a good balance? What are the cues to switch to the other format? You talk about something and then you show that thing. You talk about another thing and then you show that thing. You might also react to that thing. So you've kind of got three things here. Let's imagine you're on a trip, right? And you're on a bus and you're just about to arrive to an amazing piece of scenery, right? So you would say, for example, you'd be talking. Maybe in the bus, you'd be, okay, we're just about to arrive at this viewpoint and it's gonna be amazing, I'm really excited, and you share your emotions or your expectations or whatever. And then you might say, okay, here it is, bam. And then you'd cut into your B-roll sequence. You'd make your B-roll, you do your nice, bits and bobs, you capture the best scene that you possibly can, and then you'd react to that. So you'd react to what's happening. You would give your thoughts on how it actually was. You would say, well, this is a bit disappointing. I didn't expect it to be like this. Or you would say, wow, this is incredible. And look over there's another thing, and you could go and film again. So it's kind of like you're creating like a story, you're kind of building some kind of expectation, and then you film and you show. And then from there you react because people want to see your reactions, and then you move on to the next thing. It's kind of a basic simplified structure, but I really hope that helps. Okay, next one is from Oh Hopeless Wanderer. Hi Thomas, time is really flying. Yeah, it's true, it's crazy. I wonder if you have any tips and tricks on how to commit to a new hobby or interest, in this case filmmaking. How did you do it? I always have a bit of hard time to find the time or energy to really commit to something, even though I'm very much intrigued by it. Yeah, this is a good question. I would recommend my video on the habits of filmmakers. This is a lot about kind of getting in good habits and things that have helped me become a better filmmaker that aren't directly to do with filmmaking. So I definitely recommend that video. In answering your question here, I think the number one recommendation would be, I know this is maybe not possible right now, but it would be to find people who share your interest. It always is the thing that seems to create the magic. It's like that seems to create some kind of exponential growth, is that you've got to find people who are really interested, who have the same interests in filmmaking or photography or whatever it is, and just hang around with them and practice with them, because you're gonna grow, you're gonna learn together. It's gonna make your learning journey easier. It's just gonna be awesome for you. Other than that, I think it's about integrating this into your life. This is something that I learned with music. And now music is one of my big passions, and I'm getting more and more into music now. And that's simply because I've made it part of my life and kind of part of who I am. And I think this is really important. It sounds a bit ambiguous, but you've really got to, for example, with filmmaking, you've got to prioritize it. You can't be kind of looking at filmmaking tutorials and maybe filming and thinking, I shouldn't really be doing this. I need to kind of work, or I need to be doing something else or something more sensible. Or you can't be playing with those thoughts. You've got to schedule time and say, no, I'm going to be doing this filmmaking for 1 hour today or this evening. And that's going to make you feel like you're supposed to be doing that, and it's kind of integrating it into your life and who you are. With music, this is exactly what I'm doing. Before, I would feel like, I'm playing music, I'm kind of wasting time, I'm not a musician, so I should be focusing on these videos, or I should be focusing on editing or something like this. My real stuff, right? But now I would call myself a musician, and I worked kind of hard to do that. I made an album, put it on Spotify, and now I'm making more songs and I'm kind of prioritizing music in a way. And so I can say, yeah, I'm a filmmaker and a musician. And suddenly that has allowed me to kind of become that more and grow and learn more within music as well. And so I hope that makes sense. You've got to kind of integrate that into your life. All right, next one is from Philip. Hey Thomas, great idea, I love these Q&A videos. What do you think about the new generation GoPros with the Hypersmooth feature? How would you get the most out of it if you use this without any gimbal? To what extent do you think this can replace a gimbal? Yeah, that's a good question. I've just received the GoPro Hero 9, the Hero Black 9, and it's blowing my mind. The level of smoothness that you can get with this camera is insane. And I'll play you some shots now that I was just getting on the beach the other day. It's like, this was shot without any gimbal, without nothing. It was just handheld kind of movements. And it looks amazing because the level of stabilization of this camera is insane. A few tips to help you get more steady shots is to bend your knees when you're getting your stuff and try and follow a specific cinematic movement. So you wouldn't just kind of be walking around and hoping that your shot would be steady. No, you would pick, you say, right, with this cinematic movement, I'm gonna go forwards. So you'd start here and end here. Or this one, I'm gonna go side to side. It sounds kind of obvious, but you've got to pick and choose your movement that's gonna help you with your specific shot. And I think it can really replace a gimbal. I've done like long kind of walking shots, walking forward, and it just looks almost gimbal-like. So I think that is pretty cool, pretty revolutionary, to be honest. All right, next one is from Chris. Chris was also part of the Talking on Camera Challenge. What's up, Chris? Okay, he's got tons of questions here. I'm gonna answer a couple of these. Number one is, as you make a film, you must have some rubbish clips or takes that you did multiple times. What do you do with those clips? Do you delete them? No, I don't delete them. I always save all of my footage. I mean, it takes hard drive space, but that's what I do. I just put it all on the hard drive and leave it there. And then you said, what is your archiving strategy when you've completed a project? Do you keep all the clips and files? Yes, in general I do. I have deleted projects before because I thought that I was gonna be more like minimalist and just delete everything and only keep the things that I want to save space. But I've always regretted doing that. Every time I've done that, I've regretted it because later on I've thought, oh, I needed to use that footage as an example in a video or in a tutorial or whatever. So personally, I don't delete stuff. Lastly, I hope life is treating you well in the sun of Spain. As I look out my window, it's coming to a long bank holiday weekend in the UK, so the weather has taken a downturn, grey, cold, miserable. Sounds like the UK, to be honest. What are your plans for the next year or so? How far ahead do you plan? Any big goals you're trying to achieve this year? Love your content and really enjoyed the beta Talking to Camera course, although it was hard at times. The upcoming Talking to Camera course, I'm gonna actually launch the full version. Chris was part of the beta version. That is, it's a 30-day challenge. So you're gonna be making a video talking on camera every day for 30 days. And as Chris was saying, in the beta course, it's tough, but the transformations were incredible. And I was so excited to see so many people going from kind of talking shyly and not really knowing what to say to really expressing themselves, talking fluently, talking without ums. It was insane, some of the transformations. So I'm really excited to launch that quite soon, in a few weeks. So enter the email list or download the Talking on Camera cheat sheet if you want to be notified about that. What are my goals for the next year or so? How far ahead do I plan? My main goals for this year is staying consistent with this YouTube channel and just uploading at least every week. This channel has suffered, as you can see, like the views on my videos, they're not like crazy like they used to be a few years ago because I was just so inconsistent. I would kind of just stop posting for 6 months or 8 months because I was just focusing on other things, and my channel suffered as a consequence of that. So I want to just try and kind of get this back on track, get it back running, creating good and inspiring content for you guys. And that's a big goal this year. And the second one is music. As I was talking about before, I'm recording a few new songs at the moment that I'm really excited about. I'm also going to be making a few music videos, so kind of giving it my best shot with the music stuff this year, I think, is probably the thing I'm most excited about. And in terms of planning, how far ahead do I plan? I should probably plan further ahead. I mean, I know some people who plan years ahead and they're probably the people who are going to be the most successful. But right now I'm kind of planning more or less 3 or 4 months in advance, roughly what I'm going to be doing. So I'm not super structured at the moment, but that's just how it is. There's a question from Peter, and I recognize this email because Peter is my dad. Okay, I'm an old fart with a backlog of videos going back some 40 years, including you all growing up. Where do I start trying to make some good memories that people will enjoy watching? How do I break it up into something that is manageable so that it gets done before I die? My advice would be to just start chipping away at it. You've got to start somewhere. And I think basically you would want to start creating small videos of, let's say, each trip that you went on. So say that we went on a trip to California, which I remember we did when I was 14. You would get your footage from this trip, your videos and maybe some photos as well, and you would just start with that, or start with whichever trip that you wanted. You would start with that, you would start dragging all of those into your editing program, using the process to create a highlight reel, and then editing that video down and down and down until it's just the best clips that make up maybe a 2 or 3 minute sequence. You don't want it to be too much longer than that. Mainly including video of people, because that's going to be the most interesting thing. It's important obviously to show landscapes and where you are, but at the same time, what's going to be more interesting for everyone's memories is going to be seeing us kids when we were younger, or how you guys looked at a certain age, or how you were, or whatever. That's always going to be more interesting than just, here's a nice landscape. I would just make it a habit. If you really want to get serious about this, Dad, you need to make this a habit, I'm telling you. This is coming from your son. You need to be editing videos more or less. I would start with half an hour every day. Half an hour, ideally in the morning, because if you do it in the evening, you're always going to be doing something else. So ideally in the morning, spending half an hour just going through your old footage and just chipping away. And just that way it's going to be fun, it's going to be enjoyable, it's going to be something you wake up and think, oh great, I'm going to be going over our old travel footage and just editing this, rather than it being some huge task that's 40 years backlog as you're putting it. There's never going to be anything that you're going to do, so just break it down into bite-sized chunks and do it that way. And it'll probably take you a long time if it's 40 years, I'll be honest, but maybe it's going to be worth it, especially before you die. But don't do that anytime soon. All right, so the last question is from Sebastian, who is also a Life Capture Academy member. And he says, hi Thomas, it's great that you'll do another round of Q&As. Whilst doing the Life Capture Academy course, he's only in week 2, I've often encountered the difficulty to try it and find a proper way to end the video, even on the short 1-minute homework examples. A practical problem is that the music is often longer, and so far I've turned the volume down at the end, which doesn't sound natural. So Sebastian, basically wait until I believe it's week 4, where I go over the exact process to edit a music track and actually edit the track itself to make it shorter. And I've actually given a very quick demonstration of this if you want to get this now. It's in a recent video that I made where I'm talking about choosing music. So I'll put a link to this video in the description and probably on the screen somewhere here, which you can click on. And by the way, I enjoy the Life Capture Academy very much, especially the drills. When starting out, it's difficult to come up with good training shots on your own. Best regards, Sebastian. Cheers, Sebastian. Yeah, it is hard to know. It's hard to kind of know where to go. It's kind of hard to see the forest from the trees, if that makes sense, when you're starting with anything. It's very hard to know, like, what do I actually work on to get better, because there's so many million things and you don't know if you're going to be wasting your time doing this thing, or you want to get good fast, right? I know this feeling. You want to be efficient, and you want to know that what you're learning is the right thing for you to be learning in the right step and the right journey. And that's exactly why I created the Life Capture Academy, because it just is a step-by-step structured program that's just going to see you making drastic improvements over the course of 6 weeks in your filmmaking. So as I've said before, all the links to that are below. I'd actually recommend that you check out the free training, which is around 30 minutes, and that is going to give you a ton of advice, a ton of really good secrets that I use in my videos, and that can help you with your own travel films or the films that you're making at home. So start with that. Also, you're going to get some info about the Life Capture Academy towards the end of that as well. All right, guys, this has been awesome. I've enjoyed drinking this tea with you guys. And I'm looking forward to the next Q&A. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments. And as always, give this video a like, maybe share it with a friend who needs to hear this kind of advice. And until next time, keep filming. Bye-bye.